Here we go. Week 9 Sunday in the book. Still one Monday nighter to go. But our biggest takeaways from week 9, and wow, CJ Stroud, the record-setting rookie class of quarterbacks that he is leading. Joshua Dobbs, brand new, leading teams to victory. And I think we have a pretty good idea right now, midseason, who the NFL's elite teams are. All that and more coming up on today. Peacock and Williamson.
NFL analyst Brian Peacock and former NFL scout Matt Williamson bring you expert NFL analysis every day in less than 30 minutes. Get an inside look into the NFL on the field and in the front office. With elite breakdowns, next-level analysis, and in-depth information only for the real NFL fans. This is Peacock and Williamson, and it starts now.
Welcome to the Peacock and Williamson NFL Show. Brian Peacock alongside Matt Williamson, as always, at BD Peacock at Williamson NFL. Thanks, everybody, for making us your first listen here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Appreciate all of the everydayers out there. Subscribe on YouTube. Hit the thumbs up, the notification. We appreciate you. And, of course, you can find us on audio podcasts wherever you listen to those such podcasts. Today's episode of P&W is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. I want to start with the rookie quarterbacks, specifically CJ Stroud and the ridiculous production he's putting up as a rookie. It's something we don't see a lot, Matt, and it's something we don't see a lot even from quarterbacks who end up being superstar quarterbacks. How quickly CJ Stroud is playing great. But I said CJ Stroud leading a record-setting class of rookie quarterbacks. The rest of the rookie class of quarterbacks aren't setting records necessarily because of how great they play, like CJ Stroud. But this note from Adam Schefter before Sunday, and they're gonna break it probably next week. We're talking mid-season. The NFL has already tied a record of 9 rookie quarterbacks that have started a game. Clayton Tune and Jaron Hall were 8-9 to start games Sunday. There will have been 9 rookie quarterbacks who started a game through the first 9 weeks of the season. The NFL record for a full season is 9. We're already there halfway through the year, Matt, and we're going to have more before this season is over. Of course, you've got CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, top 2 picks in the draft. Anthony Richardson, unfortunately, got hurt. He started early for the Indianapolis Colts. Will Levis, we've seen now. Aiden O'Connell. Dorian Thompson-Robinson got thrown in the fire earlier in the season. Tyson Bagent's run might have come to an end now that Justin Fields looks like he might be ready to go this week. More on that later in the week. Clayton Tune and Jaron Hall added to it. Jaron Hall got a series before he was replaced by Josh Dobbs, which is a storyline today. But unbelievable. And there's a ton more rookie quarterbacks that have an opportunity to play this year, man.
It's a real problem. I mean, is DeVito a rookie? Because it sure sounds like he's set to start next week, and there's nothing good about that. Most of those names aren't exciting.
I got to do more research on DeVito's background because
I'm not even sure.
I don't recall where he came from, how long he's been around. It's the first time he's played in the NFL this year. Is he a rookie? Is the first time he's been active? I'm not sure. So maybe he makes.
He finished last week whenever they played the Jets in that awful punt fest. I mean,
so negative passing yards.
Yeah, yeah. They don't even let him throw.
That's what I'm saying, because I said not all these rookie quarterbacks are playing like CJ Stroud, and Will Levis looked nice. There's been some ups and downs for Bryce Young and Anthony Richardson, some promising plays, and all of them have something. They're NFL players for a reason, but like you just said. Like, this is not a good thing. This is like CJ Stroud doesn't necessarily belong in the same conversation as some of these other rookie quarterbacks because that's not what you want for your franchise in a lot of these cases, unlike what's going on with the Houston Texans.
Yeah, real quick on Stroud, he looks unbelievable. I love his receivers, 470 yards. They averaged 8 yards per play. Every time they snapped the ball, they got 8 yards against Tampa, who their offense came flying too. Like, this was the most fun game of the week. Tampa's pass defense is horrific, but this is a huge problem, this rookie quarterback situation. I mean, I harp on this all the time. I've said it 1,000 times since last year that there were 69 starting quarterbacks in 2022. And boy, the NFL does not want that because there's probably 25 starting quarterbacks walking the planet right now certainly not 69. And that doesn't take into account, this rash of rookies too. At least some of those 69s are the Winstons and Trubisky's of the world that have at least played games, Flacco's and guys like that. But these rookies are in way over their head. And frankly, I think the NFL has a huge problem on their hands that I don't know that they can solve it, but I think this is very much hurting the product. I had Red Zone on most of the day. The Steelers didn't play. And man, just watching quarterback play consensus around the league was just so horrific. And then Cincinnati Buffalo comes on. It's like, oh, this is like the light just turned on.
Yeah.
Like, look at these guys.
Yeah, this is what the teams are hoping it looks like.
Yeah.
That's a great point. That's what makes it so remarkable what CJ Stroud is doing right now, because generally when you're starting a rookie quarterback in the first half of the rookie season, that's not going great. Or usually it's designing, that there's going to be struggles and your team doesn't have a lot of talent around him. That's what's so amazing about what CJ Stroud is doing. He broke the single game record this week for passing yardage, 470 yards, 5 touchdown passes. It's the highest next gen stats passer score, 96, by any quarterback in a game this season.
Wow.
Rookies. Unbelievable what he did, leading his team back to victory. We're down late in the fourth quarter. All the things we saw from CJ Stroud as a college player and being the most talented, the more talented team than their opponents many times, all the great linemen in front of them, all the great receivers he's throwing to. That was one of the things I was a little bit worried about. I was like, man, okay, what's that going to look like? We've seen all the Ohio State quarterbacks struggle in the NFL recently. It looks just the same and just as easy as it did at Ohio State on throws with 20 plus air yards for Stroud. And this is where he really shined. He's great in college. Just, he doesn't maybe have the Josh Allen Mahomes type arm, but he throws such a beautiful deep ball with accuracy and touch. He was 6 of 8 on 20 plus air yard throws for 199 yards and 3 of those touchdowns. The completion percentage overestimated for him, number 1 in the NFL, was plus 21.5% on those throws. So just unbelievable what CJ Stroud is doing right now. 30 of 42, again, 470 passing yards, 5 touchdowns. Most quarterbacks never see that. Most fans never see a quarterback for their team do something like what CJ Stroud did statistically and lead your team to victory 39-37 on Sunday. So just phenomenal. And just the Texans coaches, front office, fans have to be giddy right now, because what a way to start a new regime, to double up in the first round and look like you've hit on a franchise quarterback. And we'll see what the rest of his career looks like. And then, a stud foundational defensive lineman as well in the first round. And they spent an extra first rounder to do so. But right now that's a first rounder that's above 500 record for that team, the Texans, that I didn't expect. So that's gone as well as possible. And I was even somewhat critical about that. I was like, really, you want to send your own future first that could be a top 5 pick? That's not looking like a top 5 pick right now for the Texans that they traded away next year.
Yeah, they look like a potential playoff team. The NFC, I would definitely pick them to go to the playoffs. So my son happens to be an Ohio State fan, and we were talking about, is Stroud going to be the first to break that trend? While we were watching Burrow and Allen last night, and it kind of dawned on me, I'm like, the Texans now feel like Burrow's rookie year in Cincinnati. That was a downtrodden organization for years. But again, it's just like the sun comes out, like, blah, everything else will just fall into place now,
Yep, absolutely. And Burrow doesn't count as an Ohio State quarterback, by the way, right?
No, that does not count.
Okay.
He didn't even start a game there. No.
Yeah. Maybe that's it's not like Ohio State's been hurting for how their quarterbacks have played, but like, you didn't like Joe Burrow enough to let him play for you in college? Like,
they
maybe
picked Haskins over Burrow.
Maybe that's a bug and not a feature. I don't know. That's
yeah.
That's interesting there. And maybe there's some correlation. I don't know.
Not seeing it with that guy. Not sure if he's good enough. Yeah. Maybe that's on you.
But man, pretty unbelievable. What we're seeing there from that and all the rookie quarterbacks. Obviously, we're going to run through some of these games a little quicker because it's like, Clayton Tune's Cardinals blanked 27-0 by the Browns, and the Browns up to 5-3 record on the year now. Cardinals back in control of that number 1 pick at 1-8 with the Panthers had that bye, so they're only 1-7. The Carolina Panthers
was okay. That's promising. Deshaun was okay, coming back. Hopefully we see Kyler going forward, but I don't think we get to spend a lot of time on that one. Browns team was pretty awesome.
Colts Panthers. I don't know if we need to spend a lot of time, except for the viral nature of Jim Irsay dancing in the locker room after the game, after that win. The Colts still 4-5 though, 27-13 win over the Panthers. And let's
two pick sixes by Moore. The same guy had 2 pick sixes in that game, but the Colts controlled that game from start to finish.
Yeah, that was they put up 20 in the second quarter, and that game was over.
Yeah, exactly.
Next, I want to talk a little bit though. One, not necessarily because of the rookie quarterback nature, but kind of tease it and what it looks like next week, and where the Raiders and the Giants are right now. And I think both those teams, as bad as they are somewhat interesting in that Raiders victory, and a whole lot more, especially some of the better teams in the NFL that are not starting bad rookie quarterbacks. Next. Today's episode of Peacock and Williamson is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs is where job seekers go, and it's where job hirers go, because these days every new potential hire can feel like a high stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs, and access is so important. That's where the job seekers already are. I'm on LinkedIn. Williamson's on LinkedIn. Everyone's already on LinkedIn. So why not go to where the job seekers and potentially job seekers that might see your posting and say, oh, you know what? Maybe that is the best job for me. So access to the best qualified candidates. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. And you just throw your new job up there on the hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile, and it spreads the word that you're hiring. And then screening questions and tools help you find the right skills and experience for those hirees and interviewees. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs number 1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. So Raiders beat up on the Giants at home 30-6. And Matt, we were skeptical, but that interim bump, Antonio Pierce had them going. They were smoking cigars in the locker room after the game. And really, there's something to it with Josh McDaniels. Like, there's, I call it the visor effect. I don't know. I just see him and I'm like, I don't like that guy. I don't trust that guy. McDaniels is like, if I was an owner, I'd never hire a coach with the visor, especially in the year 2023. But this was reported from, I believe, Glazer before the games happened, and it was pretty unbelievable because clearly something was going wrong, and Mark Davis said, I don't care about the money of it all. We're firing our head coach. And apparently there was this meeting, and this team meeting where players were kind of directing a lot of frustrations at Josh McDaniels, and everyone kind of had their say. And linebackers coach, before he became interim head coach, Antonio Pierce, who clearly has the locker room right now, was speaking on behalf of McDaniels, is the way it was put, which is interesting. So like he can't connect with his team. He needed Pierce, former player, to connect with the guys, And Pierce had this great speech, and he brought up the Giants 2007 team that won a Super Bowl, beat the undefeated Patriots, explaining how the team believed they could beat anybody. And it was said, he said, that's the mindset. That's the mindset the Raiders need to have, is they can go in and beat anybody. And then after that happened, McDaniels was super pissed, and he told Pierce, don't ever talk about the Patriots like that, and just completely missed the message. And it's just like, where are you at, dude? What's going on here? And so maybe it was a huge addition by subtraction. Who cares who's calling the plays? The mindset had to be completely flipped for the Raiders, and they were completely underachieving. And so now you have Antonio Pierce, the interim guy, who potentially has an opportunity, according to Glazer's report, to continue to be head coach there. And so just the mindset flip. And, the New York Giants weren't a good team, but they beat the heck out of the Giants, and they got that interim head coach bump despite all the bad that was happening with the Raiders.
Yeah, and I downplayed it. I picked the Giants to win this game. I'm like, I don't believe in that interim stuff. Raiders are in a bad place, blah, blah, blah. And this game was a total blowout. 8 sacks. O'Connell played well. I'm not saying he's the answer. Your quarterback hopes are solved. None of that. But I also didn't think Daniel Jones would last a handful of plays and then get hurt yet again. Giants took 8 sacks yet again. They can't block a soul. They're terrible. I mean, they're terrible.
Well, they're bad enough with their quarterback that they plan to have, that they paid in Daniel Jones. And now he's torn his ACL. So now you're going to Tommy DeVito. It's Tommy, right? Like, I don't know anything about Tommy DeVito except for it's not a good situation for the New York Giants.
They don't let him really throw the ball, and they don't block anybody, and they just give it to Saquon 400 times in a row, and they score 6 points. Like, I don't know if they're worse than the Cardinals or not, but I can't imagine a team being worse than this Giant team.
And for the Raiders, they didn't really even have to do much. Aiden O'Connell didn't have to do much. Devontae Adams had 4 catches, but it's like, Jacobs, here, you get the ball 28 times, you're going to score a couple touchdowns. They know it's coming, but it doesn't matter because we've got this team beat if we don't screw it up and give it away, and Aiden O'Connell didn't give it away.
Yeah, I mean, the Jets did very little last week to beat the Giants. They played very poorly. The Giants are horrendous.
Yeah, the Jets win over the Giants last week was historically one of the worst ever performances to win a football game for the Jets.
To actually win, yeah. It's like almost impossible to win doing what they did, and they still did because the Giants are that bad.
So pretty unbelievable. Bad vibes right now, and without Daniel Jones, not that I've not been high on Daniel Jones anyway, but it's not a good situation, and I don't know how many wins are left on the schedule for the Giants at this point.
I can't imagine beating anyone unless they improve drastically, and it's going to be DeVito, I assume, unless they sign Carson Wentz or something. I mean, it's
really tanks. Like the Raiders are going to, if the Raiders win a few games, they're not going anywhere either. But they're 4-5 already. They're going to not be drafted in the top 5, but they'll still maybe draft in the top 10. For the Giants, the best thing you could possibly do is lose all the rest of your football games right now.
100%. Yeah.
Play to be
if whatever you do with Jones, who cares? Just start over.
Yeah, and let him be the interim next year, and then after his second year of his contract, I think he can get out of it. So that kind of works itself out, and it's probably not a big deal what he's being paid because he's going to get 2 years of that contract, and then you move on to whatever quarterback you drafted. That's got to be the plan, and you hope you hit your CJ Stroud. You hope you are where the Texans were last year right now as the New York Giants.
Giants were in the playoffs last year.
We knew they were one of the worst playoff teams.
We knew, yeah, I know.
I didn't know that they were going to be this bad.
Yeah, and Dayball was coach of the year.
Speaking of a team that I thought was going to regress this year, the Minnesota Vikings, but now they've reversed the regression and had some progression from midseason, and they're now 5-4, beating the Falcons in Atlanta, who are 4-5. Atlanta just wins one, loses one. That's the way it's going to go the rest of the year, it seems like, for them. And they're still in the hunt there in the NFC South. But this is unbelievable. Jaron Hall, one of those rookie quarterbacks, gets concussed on his second drive of the game, of the first time he's playing in his career. He's starting a game. And Joshua Dobbs, who's been there for 4 or 5, this is his 5th day in town, leads him. Like, that didn't look good right at first when Josh Dobbs came in, but he let him back. And
he didn't even know his teammates' names or how they snap the ball, the cadence.
He had never taken a snap from his center or thrown to his receivers before.
Right.
A while.
And so Justin Jefferson's not there. It's insanity.
31-28 win for the Vikings over the Falcons. And it's both a blessing and a curse because, everyone talks about he's a rocket scientist, Joshua Dobbs, super smart, but everyone loves him.
Yeah.
We've already seen it twice this year. He goes in with no time, and all of a sudden, gets the Cardinals, are the worst roster in the league, gets them a win, and they're competitive early in the year. Then the Cardinals get their quarterback back at some point, and Kyler Murray. So they're like, okay, well, before the deadline, we can trade Dobbs to the Vikings, who had a quarterback injury. And Dobbs in 5 days is ready to play. But like we saw early in his career with Dobbs, he's been around for a little while now. He's been on multiple teams.
I think he's been on 5 teams within the last calendar year.
Yes.
And 2 of them traded for him, right.
So people like him, but not enough. And what's crazy is he can go play professional football in 5 days. That's how smart he is. But, he's maybe not even better than he is after 5 days, 5 months after that either, though. So that's kind of the problem.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
there's really a super low ceiling, but he could go to the Toronto Argonauts tomorrow and make them competitive, and then they would cut him, or trade him, it's bonkers. My other note on this game, though, and this is very fantasy relevant, I don't know if I can handle Arthur Smith anymore. I mean, Drake London is out. You have Heineke, so you can't blame Ritter, and you barely use Pitts and Bijan again. Like, put your best guys out there, please. I mean, I just don't understand his usage of his skill position players at all.
I don't either. I would make a change. I don't know how Arthur Blank feels about what's going on there. I don't know. We talked about the win one, lose one nature of the Falcons season. Are they bad enough to be forced to make a big change at quarterback? They've already made the move to Heineken, which tells you something, but that also makes me question who's in charge and who's making the decisions that you might want new decision makers there. And, Jonnu Smith has been there, aside from the rookie Bijan, and even with the usage of Bijan, Jonnu Smith's been one of their best players all year. Jonnu Smith, backup tight end. You have all this talent. It's like, okay, this is the guy we're going to feature. Does that speak to the rest of the talent on the team? Does it speak to who you're utilizing? I don't know. I definitely come away with more questions than answers every time I watch the Falcons.
Yeah, and I think Jonnu Smith's actually a good player. I mean, I'm not knocking him, but I know Pitts and Dijon are. But they may end up going to the playoffs. I mean, they play nobody.
They might go to the playoffs because they're playing in a division with teams like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who we mentioned lost to the Texans 39-37. And the
Carolina got walloped again.
Yeah, Carolina got walloped. And the New Orleans Saints, who narrowly beat Tyson Bagent and the Bears 24-17. So, not a powerhouse division at all, but Saints right now at 5-4. They're over 500. So if you win 9 games,
they would be my bet. Yeah, they would be my bet to go to the playoffs. But it's bad. I mean, this was sort of a close game. Box scoring it seems like a close game, but the Saints really controlled it, and the Bears had 5 turnovers compared to 0 for the Saints. You would think they won by 30.
Well, that's the thing. That's why I call it a close game, because
you're right.
If you can't walk away and really sprint away from a team that turns the ball over 5 times, starting an undrafted rookie quarterback, then you might have your own problems at home.
So many of these teams are a disaster.
All right, Matt, let's talk about some good teams here. Who are the NFL's elite and some of the high-level teams, and looking ahead at some power rankings next. Today's episode of Peacock and Williamson is brought to you in part by FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, because there's so many fun and easy ways to play and bet on your favorite football team. And as always, a special offer for our listeners right now. New customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. Again, that's $150 if your team wins that initial $5 money line bet. So if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time than right now to get in on the action. And the app is super easy to use, wide ranging of betting options, including the money line, as I mentioned, spreads, player props, over-unders. You can build your own parlay. You can bet on your team to win the Super Bowl. And by the way, tease into the next section here, I think we know who those teams are that might have the best odds. And it's not that different from the teams that ended last year that were fighting for a Super Bowl late in January. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get this season going. Again, that is FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Speaking of those teams, and we teased it at FanDuel, if you had to guess, Matt, who are the top 4 teams with the best odds to win the Super Bowl this year after 9 weeks, who would it be?
Chiefs have to be one. I'm not even putting them in order. I think Chiefs are one of the 4. I think Eagles are one of the 4. The more things change, it stays the same. The Ravens have to be in the mix. Let's just talk about them for 2 seconds.
Yes.
37-3 against another pretty strong, uncommon NFC opponent in their building. Just dismantled Seattle. I mean, that was not even a close game from the start. I mean, the Ravens jump all over you and they do some damage. So I would say they're one of the 4, and I'll say Cincy over the Bills is the last one.
And you missed one team that's in there that's ahead of Cincy and Baltimore, and it's the 49ers.
I should, yeah.
But
I'm sitting here scanning yesterday's results and didn't think of them.
The Niners kind of go with the Bills, Cowboys, Dolphins, where it's like, we know they're a good team, but lately they've not shown us the thing they need to show us. Whereas the Ravens and the Bengals have been the exact opposite. Like, I don't want any part of the Bengals or the Ravens right now. What's wild about the Ravens doing what they did to the Seahawks is not that different to what they did to the Lions a few weeks ago. And so it's like, wow. And Lamar Jackson apologized to his fantasy owners after the game because he put up 37 points. It's like, cool. How many points did Lamar get me? It's like, not very many because initial. And Gus Edwards is just running the ball all over people. So the Ravens have kind of gotten back to what they've been for a long time, and something that we weren't sure about where they were going to be. It's not a Lamar-centric thing that's winning football games for him right now. And he's putting up some numbers and doing things certain weeks. He didn't have to do it this week against the Seahawks. The Ravens are winning up front, and we had questions about their pass rush and some injuries on the offensive line. It's coming together for them right now.
Big time. And their defensive coordinator, maybe a head coach this time next year. I mean, they're getting a lot out of an okay defensive talent. Lamar's throwing the ball very well. They're balanced, but they can run it like they used to, basically, and do whatever you want. This NFC thing versus Lamar is very real. I mean, I have no doubt about that.
You did mention that when we were making our picks, which is why you picked the Ravens in this one. And there's something to that. It wasn't a Lamar-centric game again, but you have to prepare a certain way, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, this is too much for us to handle. And then on the other side of it, with the Ravens defense, it was hard for me to watch that game and think, man, is Geno just not that good, or did the Ravens make him not look that good?
Yeah, he did not have a good day at all. I think the Ravens are making a lot of teams through scheme, and they're very physical at the point of attack. Guys like Clowney are playing well, that have been up and down through their career. They hold the point and beat you up. And yeah, I mean, I think Lamar's 18-1 against the NFC. I know it's a 1. It's either 18 or 19.
Another one of those teams you mentioned that is in there and one of the most likely to be playing in the Super Bowl in the NFL, one of a handful of teams, is the Kansas City Chiefs, and they beat the Dolphins 21-14. And the big thing here was, nice for the Dolphins to come back a little bit in this game, but the Chiefs kind of controlled it early and then held on. The Dolphins haven't beaten anybody yet, but when they get a good team, they don't look nearly as good. When they play a bad team, they just thump the heck out of them. So who are the Dolphins? Are they good or are they not good? Or does this mean they're going to wilt when it comes time to play a playoff game?
I think you have to be concerned about that. I mean, Casey's D was pretty strong here, and I think is a real strength to this team. But I'm pulling it up real quick because the numbers are bonkers. So they have their losses, their strength of victory. The winning percentage of the teams that they've beaten is only 28%. I mean, they're at point. So the teams that they're beating are the worst in the league, and they're losing to the very best teams in the league, which makes you think they're mediocre, but the eyeball test says they're better than mediocre. But I think that they're a one and done type playoff team.
That's the way it looks right now. So they're going to have to do something and start playing better football against better teams that have more answers for them, especially what their offense gives another team's defense.
100%. And I don't think it's on Tua necessarily or the scheme. They are a little finesse-ish. I mean, they're not going to be a big, rugged, beat your face in the snow type of team, obviously, but
and that's what you might have to do in January too. You're not going to be in South Florida, with the 70 degrees and humidity that you had in September.
Yeah, I mean, you go to Baltimore in week 1 or Cincinnati. I mean, we know exactly how that's going to go. I am a little bit curious to see. I think next week, Achan is back, and I would like to see him added in there and see how that goes. But we'll see.
Although Mostert had a really good game in this one too.
Yeah,
so,
he's fine.
That hasn't been the problem for them. Philadelphia Eagles beat the Cowboys 28-13. Again, one of those teams that you expected to be there that is there. Cowboys made it respectable, and even had a couple opportunities to win the game, but even though it didn't feel like they were ever going to win the game. It's so weird how a game can be 28-23. And like, the Eagles are cool and they've got this handled, but it was close. And the Cowboys had a couple of close opportunities, missing out on getting in the end zone. Eagles now 8-1, Cowboys 5-3. And I think they're in different tiers. The Cowboys in that tier right now is like, okay, show us something. They're with the Dolphins, the Bills, and kind of the 49ers for me. It was like, okay, come out of the bye, show something. Where the Eagles are, well, you're already 2 games up on everybody now in the NFC. like start getting flights for that 1 seed, bye and then home game after that.
So Dak throws for 374 and no interceptions, and Hurts throws for 207, and it's not like the Eagles had 200 yards rushing, and they still win.
Yeah.
They know how to win in this league, and they really, really do. And I don't know that the Eagles are even playing their best football at this point. A Dallas note is this isn't the worst problem to have, but it just felt like the whole offense was Lamb and Ferguson, like Cooks and Gallup and those dudes and Pollard. I mean, they don't seem like they're being used well enough.
I know we haven't touched deep on every game. We don't have a lot of time to get into it. The last one here, though, is obviously the Sunday nighter, Bengals and Bills. And the reason I prefaced that question to you earlier, Matt, about the teams that are betting favorites, and because the teams that were the last 4 last year are the teams that are looking like they could be the last 4 this year, and then you throw the Ravens in, and that's kind of where we're at right now. The Bengals beat the Bills 24-18, and this is a different Bengals team than we saw at the beginning of the year. Throw out the first couple 2-3 weeks of the season. This is one of the best teams in the league. Joe Burrow's playing at MVP level last couple of weeks and just looked better than Josh Allen in this game. As good as Josh Allen is, and he's going to make some big time plays and rushing touchdowns, and the Bengals are really good right now. I might put them up against any team in the league with the way they're playing right now.
Me too. I mean, maybe we'll touch on a power ranking situation or whatever, but they might be 1 for me. I mean, they're really, really good. And Burrow has his swag back in a big way. Chase got banged up, but Higgins stepped up. It's time to worry about the Bills. Like, people need to realize, like, everyone just assumes this is a playoff matchup. Either one of these teams could win the Super Bowl. And yeah, I think that's true. But the loser of this game was going to have 4 losses already. And all 4 of the Bills' losses are AFC losses. So they're going to lose many, many wild card tiebreakers. And these two have like the hardest 2 schedules in the league going forward. So I don't want to say this is a loser leave town match because Allen and Burrow are too good for that. I mean, either one of these teams could run the table. Who knows? But the loser here got hit hard. He got hit real hard. Yeah.
And you have, at a certain point, was it Parcells? You are what your record says you are.
Yeah.
They're 5-4, and it's not like the Bengals where all those losses were at the beginning of the season with a hurt quarterback and a very different looking football team. The Bills are losing games right now, and they're just too up and down. And right now, the Bills aren't a team that I can trust. But I know they're good, but I wouldn't put them up against any of the other 5 teams we mentioned right now. And that's why I kind of put them with the Cowboys and really with the 49ers after that 3-game skid before their bye week and some tough games coming up on the Niners schedule. And, the Dolphins, those teams are good, and I'm sure they're good. The Lions in there too. They're on a bye this week. You come out of the bye and show something. Like, I need to see something with some of these teams where you're not just taking, like we talked about the Falcons earlier. The Bills are 1 game better than the Falcons right now.
Yeah. I'm less worried about your Niners than any of those other teams, but Jacksonville, they're on bye. They're probably better than the Bills right now. I mean, they've won 5 in a row. I mean, that's a good team too.
The Jaguars should be favored over the Bills in a neutral site today.
Yeah, they have less holes. I mean, there's something missing on the Bills' D, and their running game still is just not something you can trust.
All right. If we skipped something you think is really important, we're looking ahead to week 10 as well later in the week. Hit us for our Wednesday mailbag episode. You can find us on Twitter at BD Peacock, at Williamson NFL. You can always drop a comment in the YouTube, or drop a question in the YouTube comments as well. Make sure you are subscribed up, hit the bells and the thumbs ups and all those. And of course, you can follow us and subscribe everywhere you listen to your podcasts. Matt and I back tomorrow right here, Peacock and Williamson.